I've heard you say before kids don't get a vote. Is this true at any age? We're looking into moving our family to a different continent, a small village in Africa, for a year of volunteer and mission work, and our teenagers are not on board. How do we approach this? Well, first I need to answer the question a little more carefully, or a portion of this set it up. Kids don't get a vote. What that means is the parents are in charge.
Right.
It doesn't mean that I don't admit that my children have desires and feelings about things, in some cases that are valid, but and I take those into consideration, but I make a decision that is best for the overall family and for that child. I meet too many people where their children are in charge of their house and the inmates are running the freaking asylum. And so that's what the kids don't get a vote comes from. It doesn't mean we don't take their feelings or their desires or their best interest into consideration in any major decision.
We got to talk to them, right? And they're worth a conversation. Before we get to the answer, to extrapolate on what you said, to continue that, understand that when you put your kids in charge, when they get to make decisions, that taxes them, that destroys a child. They don't have the wisdom or the strength to carry your family, right? That's harmful to a kid. And not only is it not helpful, it's harmful to a kid. To expect them to be the kid that decides, are we going to church? What building are we going to? Where are we eating? Where are we going to live? What neighborhood? That a kid can't, it doesn't have the infrastructure.
We used to come out of church, and we would, back after we finally got a little bit of money and could go out to eat, we would say, where do y'all want to go out to eat? And it would proceed, that 4 of them, my wife and my 3 kids, would argue for the next few minutes until I would just decide. Because, you're right. It didn't work.
Right.
Dadgum inmates running the asylum. And so I'd look at Sharon and go, okay, me and you are about to decide this because I'm tired of them in the back seat. Those people in the back seat didn't get any brains.
Right.
So we're going to just decide. And that's the joke. But the truth is that I think you and I would take these teenagers' feelings into consideration. It doesn't mean I won't do it.
Right.
And they don't get a vote per se.
And you can't expect a teenager to understand what living in Africa for years is going to do to their hearts and minds and future.
I can't understand it because I've never done it.
That's right. And so no teenager is going to be on board with, hey, we're going to leave everything go to another country away from your friends, your family, your community, your church, all of that, and we're going to start over completely for a year.
Your Instagram's going to get totally screwed up.
Everything's going to be messed up, right? So go into it with a different mindset, but no, they don't. If you and your wife think that's the best interest for your family, so
you take them dragging, kicking, and screaming.
I would think there is something wrong with my teenager if they're not kicking and screaming.
Okay.
Because they don't know any different.
Yeah.
Right? They don't know it unless you've trained them to have a robust sense of adventure. Right? Now, if you're living out some fantasy and this is against the best interest of your kids, I'm going to sell the house and we're going to move to Tennessee to pursue my songwriting career. We're all going to live in a 1-bedroom apartment because I'm not going to have any money. And the kids say, Dad, that's a bad idea. Right?
They're being more adult than you are at
That's
that point.
Exactly
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, so.
But I wouldn't expect a teenager to be fully invested because they wouldn't understand. They don't have the wisdom to look down the road. They don't have the wisdom to understand that my innate discomfort is not going to pay off in massive ways down the road.
Yeah, I agree. I'm trying to think about when our kids were there, if we had wanted to do something like that, what would have happened? They would have objected.
Absolutely.
No question about it. But I also would like to think, we never did it, so I really don't have a test case, but I would like to think that some other times that I had challenged them on something and said, you didn't want to do this, but we did it because I thought it was a good idea, it worked out, then, maybe I'd made some deposits.
There you go.
Earlier, before I get to this decision. So if only deposits you've made, if all you've done is make withdrawals up to this point, and Dad's constantly going on an adventure, and it's constantly putting everybody in peril, and the kids are tired of the emotional upheaval for Dad chasing this weird adventure thing he's got, then yeah, I would give them, I'd give their voice much more credence. But if all you've ever done is make sure that they're okay, and other times you've stretched them and it turned out good to their benefit, and they smiled, but they didn't think when you went on that vacation it was going to work out, and now this is another one, then you've earned the right to force their hand.
Those relational deposits, right? And my hope would be that this isn't one of those things that someone was driving home from work and they thought, I hate my job. It's time for me to do something drastic.
Yeah.
My hope is when you're going to make a transition like this,
it's been incremental and well thought out.
You've taken your family there before for a week or two. You have shown them videos and pictures, and you've met families from there, and it's a part of the fabric of your life, right?
Exactly. One of the best things we did with our teens was send them on missions trips, but they were a week long.
Right.
Or whatever, or they went, Sharon went on several of the trips with them, because they get out of the prosperity bubble,
right,
and see real world poverty.
That's right.
And see people that are happy in spite of living in a cardboard box, and so it redefines happiness. It's not based on stuff or electronics or screen time. It's reset and bust the bubble. Right. And so it was very valuable in that regard. This would be a bigger version of that.
Right.
These kids could come home
transformed forever, right? Yeah. And that's where I say, again, a teenager can only feel in right now. They're not fully developed. That's why we don't give them car keys. That's why we don't give them the ability to vote or to fill in the blank, right? Because we have all decided they don't have the maturity to handle some of that, because they live in the right now, in the what is going to keep me comfortable and keep me engaged in my community right now. And they wouldn't have the wisdom to see beyond that. But I love what you said, man. There's got to be some relational deposits along the way. So if you're going to make life transitions...
I don't feel guilty about forcing it if I'm not being irresponsible.
Absolutely not.
And if I have made deposits.
That's right.
If after that they're throwing a little hissy fit, then they'll just have to do it.
And I would expect them to. They're kids.
Yeah, I know.
Right?
But I mean, I'm just saying that's part of the equation. But I'm okay. I'm not going to be going, I've ruined my child's life, because they actually are going to say, you've ruined my life. That's actually a phrase they will use.
I hate you. You're killing me. You're ruining everything. I loved that boy. Right? All the stuff.
My Instagram's going to go dormant.
That's right.
I'm going to lose all my followers.
Yes. All the super tragic stuff, right?
Yeah, it's all over for when that happens. Your ability to do a reality show later is going down the tubes. And so, darn.
Right.
That's awful. I hate it that happened.